Welcome back to the show. We're going to talk about it. We're your hosts, Joanna.
Joel.
And today we're going to talk about the nexus of energy and climate. With us today, we have a very intriguing and quite interesting guest with us. Fred, 100 books on energy?
Could be more than that.
Oh, amazing. All right. Our guest is going to introduce himself and we're going to get into it.
Fred is my name. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy
Largely,
to have
I'm interested in energy, but the financing bit of it, but energy as a whole.
Amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So now, this topic of energy intrigues me a lot because of the recent changes that have been happening and how people are moving towards a decarbonized world. Let me put it that way, a decarbonized world. So, yeah, and electrification is at the heart of decarbonization. But for that to be achieved, that means electrification has to do what? It has to be run by clean sources.
True.
Yeah. So now, my question to you is that with the 2015 Paris Agreement of people to go towards a more decarbonized world and to go towards green, to, not global warming, to not affect the world and everything. What do you think about the whole movement, the whole green movement and towards energy and everything?
First of all, I think the International Energy Agency is moving a little really fast. And the people who are moving the agenda on energy and the idea of climate, I think we're moving really fast and we need to come to the realities. First, what are the realities? By the 19th century, it is only one country, and that is Britain, that was using coal. The rest of the world were running largely on energy, which is largely wood and biomass. So it took a good number of years for even those first world countries. But we are talking about Africa here, where people are still using wood.
Yeah.
Recently, the Ministry of Energy released a report where it is stating that about over 90% of our population is still using wood and charcoal.
Yeah.
So we have even transitioned into the current modern world. But I'll make a statement. From coal, we move because wood is dirty. So what I want to say is the world has been getting greener to start with.
And cleaner.
Cleaner.
Yeah.
One, we started with wood. We transitioned to coal. From coal, we transitioned to oil. From oil, we have transitioned to natural gas.
Have we or we want to?
No, the world.
Yeah.
That's what I'm stating.
Okay.
So the world. First, I'm giving the world perspective.
All right.
So from us having that, we are transitioning into the fifth industrial revolution of energy, which is renewable energy. So by nature, the world has been getting there. But the question is, when do we get there? But the question is the rush. For me, I'm not getting the rush.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Do you understand that approximately 600 million people in Africa lack access to electricity?
I agree.
You agree?
Yes.
So how much easier is it going to be for us to transition? We cannot skip the steps.
Yes.
We have to follow the steps.
Yes.
So in how long will it take us to fully transition to renewable energy?
It's going to take a long while, but we need people to come together. You see, let us take ourselves back.
Okay.
On the issue of health. The world came together on the issue of HIV.
Yeah.
But we are still fighting still on the same issue. Africa had been given up on. They had said all Africans should die because Africans could not afford
a new generation.
Basic ARVs.
Yeah.
The cost was too high. The companies that were making these ARVs could not think that Africans could even buy them. But the subsidies that came, that a person that I think the world should continue to praise is the president of America then, who was George Bush, because he brought the subsidy and gave in money so that we could reduce the cost on these drugs. And then somehow they end up in African hospitals. One we should know is we are still getting there. Same is with the energy issue.
Yeah.
With the energy issue, the Ajay Banga, the World Bank president, recently was with the African Development Bank president, and they were talking about the idea of how we finance to put about that population you're talking about.
Yes.
They are looking at addressing about 350 million people into the world of receiving electricity. They're off the grid. So it's something I believe the world is getting
something
to.
that's about half of the people.
Yes. The question is, how do we raise the finances to get there?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that intrigues this very interesting theory that I have in mind, and I actually believe that would work for us to reach a more greener environment, like the green activists suggest.
Sure.
So I feel like to reach a greener or a safer environment, it would start with elimination of poverty.
Okay.
So I explain it in this way because I have an example of Germany. So Germany, when the leftists, the green movement activists, were going for the more of the green environment, but ignoring the needs of the people and pushing the agenda in Germany, Germany adopted wind and solar energy to be their renewable source of energy, like you suggested, the fifth industrial revolution. So when they adopted wind and solar, what ended up happening was that Germany could no longer power itself as a country. So it's now one of the dirtiest countries to exist right now.
Yes.
Not the dirtiest, but one of the dirtiest, because they could no longer power themselves, because they didn't answer the core question of the welfare of the people.
Yes.
Have we eliminated poverty? Because it kind of intrigues the question of, why would I care about the environment when my own fortitude is not in order? If now, like Uganda, if we are moving towards that fifth revolution, industrial revolution of giving access to renewable energy sources and for all Ugandans to adopt them for a cleaner environment, why would someone who survives, makes 5,000 and is going to eat that, and probably sometimes not eat, probably is going to pay it for his children and wives, start to care that, oh, I no longer want to buy a diesel engine powered maybe motorcycle, I'm going for the electrical charging motorcycle, when he cannot eat? Why would he have that care for the environment when his own issues have not been yet resolved?
Fred,
and what do you think about that?
See, I love that question, and I think I want to disagree with him. I disagree with Joel, because I believe that to really eradicate poverty, we must first fix the energy issue.
True.
I feel like healthcare, education, poverty, all those are things that we will deal with in a great manner if we fix the energy issue. Because earlier, while I was having a conversation and we're just talking about what happens when it shines way too much. I'll use Uganda specifically. When it shines way too much, the crops dry up, the grass dries up, the animals don't have anything to eat, so they die. But then what happens when it also rains too much? The crops are washed away. So there arises the problem being the energy and the climate. And that's why I think that if we fix that, we eradicate poverty in a certain way. Because if we manage to fix that issue for them, then maybe they can keep their crops, maybe the drought-resistant crops, the maize and the whatnot, they have something, maybe they sell it, and it earns them some form of money. But that's just my train of thought.
So let me say something. I need to bring in the two of you.
Okay.
One, I'll start with you. When the biggest problem with this issue, and the reason I say we need to come out, even if I'm saying it's going to take time, we need to rise up as Africa and call on to the worlds that developed by using fossil fuels, because they are telling us not to use the same fossil fuels. The issue is what happens. Then they need to come in and invest what we call green premiums. These technologies they are talking about are extremely expensive technologies. Africans cannot afford this technology to even make them scale.
And you raise a good point, because we've only tapped into about 2.4% of that investment.
Perfect. So it can't scale up. So for it to scale, we need the investment of these people. I was reading a ministry letter yesterday. The Minister of Finance released a letter about a ministerial meeting that happened in Uganda here. So it was a meeting of ministers around the world. So they are having a conversation on how the countries that have used fossil fuels over time, how do they come in to support the countries that are at the verge of losing it? So you bring a
Going
good
back
case.
to wood and
as
coal.
I come back to you now.
Yeah.
When it shines hard, the crops will dry. In Africa, one of the biggest problems, I hear people say, when AI comes, that we are going to lose jobs. Me, that's not my problem. The jobs of the future are going to be needing extremely brilliant brains, capacity brains. Kids that affected with malnutrition will never catch up with such a phase, which means if we don't address the issues that come with climate change, which affect the food system, in Africa, we will have a population which will never catch up forever with the world.
Absolutely.
That's it. We need to have these people coming in to fund and make sure Africa keeps on fighting the diseases it has been fixing, but also address this problem. Now I come to your issue of German being dirty and how we transition from the element that comes in there. Life has always been getting better. I want to tell you people, and forever, whoever is watching, we are living even a better life than Mr. Obote lived as he was president when he was in 1962. The world has gotten better. But what has made that? The question of technology. I don't dispute that. The evolution that came with the energy evolution. We had the issue of electricity. The Thomas Edison invention. The idea that we are here with a lighting bulb is extremely big invention. It brought about the construction of high storage buildings. Better life. You can have a lift moving up. The question of the invention of the kitchen. Storage, the food-related problems were starting to reduce because we now have a kitchen where you have a refrigerator, you can have a microwave, you have an oven, you have all these things. So I believe energy issues, the world as we have it is growing greener. The issue is the pace is slow, but it is not catching up with Africa. Africa is being left out. How does Africa catch up? It is through that investment that will come from largely the people who have developed their economies on fossil fuels coming to help us pay that price.
I'm glad you said that, Fred, because I feel like it's a bit sad that Africa contributes about just 3% of carbon dioxide emissions, but we're amongst the people that are most affected by climate change.
Yes.
Yeah. So
now on that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the problem with Africa. The biggest population that we have, even from a recent index, it shows us the biggest population that we have is in agriculture. They are trying to live off that. One of the biggest initiatives moved in our government back here is the parish development model, trying to get our poor people connected to the money economy. It's a big initiative. It's not just in Uganda only. It's across. The question is, what is done? What is the problem? I want to start with. When you're talking about climate issues, I want to hear green solutions. But those green solutions come up how? In Africa, we want climate adaptability. We want investment to that effect. When it shines, we need to invest into crops that are
climate resistant.
That even in a drought, it can come up. I want to give you 5 things that a farmer needs. 1, a farmer needs a good seed.
He does.
So if you give them that, then we are starting. 2, so which means you're giving them a climate-resistant seed. 2, a farmer needs good soil. That soil is reducing in Africa, so we need fertilizer. We need to also know that fertilizer is a fossil fuel. But we are moving forward. So a farmer will need fertilizer. 3, a farmer needs water. So irrigation.
Yes.
So investment in these things. The 4th is there is a need for care. So the care comes from the farmer. But we need to invest.
I thought the care comes from the government.
No. The government will never come to take care of your
never
crops.
care, yes.
But what I'm talking about is you making sure that the normal farmer concentrates on their crop when you are trying to help to solve that. Thank you.
Amazing.
So, reason why I believe that economic development is the best way to achieve a green environment. Now, you're going to elaborate on some of these issues I'm going to raise here. So basically, what happened with they blame most of the carbonization from cars, right? Because of the fumes they emit. So now what America started with when they were going towards a more green environment was to replace those cars with electrified cars. So what happened when they replaced those cars with electrified cars? It kind of the carbonization that they saved was equivalent to emissions of around 6 million. I'm not sure, 6 million cars. That's what they were able to save in that year. I think it was around 2021. And the reason why those cars were able to operate efficiently in America, because it was already economically developed. Now, let's say for Uganda, we are taking that toll of wanting to bring the electrified cars into Uganda and, replacing them with the, petroleum or diesel engine cars. So what will happen? Will a Tesla car be able to operate with our economic development on our roads? As you know, our roads, will it be able to operate efficiently? And even if we do execute and people start buying those Tesla cars, will it be long lasting? Will it be an efficient maybe mechanism that will actually lead to decarbonization with our economic development currently?
First, no. Number two, me, I don't want even us to look at the question of just the Tesla and what.
Yeah.
I am one person. I'm sorry, Elon Musk will forgive me, but I disagree. Yes, we are making electric cars, which is perfect. But this electric car is still a fossil damn fuel. When you talk about an electric car in Uganda, that's why I keep telling people, differentiate in which regions you're talking about. First of all, an electric car in Uganda is even greener. Why? Because we are using hydroelectric still. In Uganda, largely. That's the energy we use.
Definitely.
You get? I saw in Uganda we are putting up charging points. What will charge those charging points? So which means it's that
hydroelectricity. Yeah.
You get? So there I would agree. But the problem is what makes up that car?
Fossil fuels.
Steel, plastics.
Plastic.
Because of fossil fuels. That's number one. Number two, when you're charging that car, you will need hydroelectricity. But in Uganda, we face a problem. It's never there always.
Yeah.
So you will need to run that station
and it's normal
with a
that
diesel
it's not always
generator.
there. Yeah.
That's another problem.
Yeah.
So to be a diesel generator still running.
That's why I disagree with the people who say that when you bring an electric car on the market, you're by nature taking away the climate problem. No. There's still a bigger problem you don't.
Yeah.
For example, where will we get parts to produce those cars when you tell Ugandans not to take away their car fuel in the oil area at the Albertine region? You get? So you hear a move like that. Me, I am not with those people. I agree with the idea that we need to get greener, but not at the pace at which people are moving us. If we do that, we are going to make mistakes. We are losing out on something serious. And I want to tell the population on this. We are losing out by making it a simple idea that transitioning from dirty fuels to clean energies is a small idea of just doing. We have a lot of the sun, so we can go and do solar. We have a lot of wind, so we can do wind what? Wind systems. And we take away the idea of fossil fuels. That is simple to say. But you're taking away the idea that we need to take research and do these things. For example, there's no technology whatsoever to prove how we are going to solve the issue of intermittency. These solutions they're trying to talk about, we are still grappling with an idea of a battery.
And that's our biggest problem as
a battery
Ugandans.
issue is a serious issue that we are trying to fight. So until those things are resolved, then we can't claim to have done away with all these fossil fuels. I keep here and stand on that ground.
Amazing. Actually, and you raise a good point because our continent, Africa, our population is rapidly growing with projections that by around 2050 will be like at 2.5 billion people.
Yes.
So that just really compounds the need for like renewable energy.
Yes.
Yeah. But like you said, we're very far. One of our huge, problems is of course the finance and the investment.
Yes.
But how can we, as a people, as a society, maybe as a government and whatnot, how can we start to harness some of these sources like wind and solar, not at the scale at which they are, but at a scale that is good enough such that by 2050, people survive.
And to add on to that question, she talked about wind and solar as the sources maybe we want to harness, but then studies have come out to show that nuclear energy is a better alternative. But what I want from you is confirmation that can we mine uranium in Africa? And if we can't mine uranium in Africa, wouldn't nuclear energy be better than the wind and the solar energy? Yeah.
One, starting on the issue of will we mine on what? There are laws to that effect. I think regulation to that effect should solve. You get world over.
Yes.
We know there. Of course, there's an issue of who is powerful and what,
and who is going to make the right
to
thing
even make
not.
nuclear weapons in this world. You know that issue.
Okay.
So me, that one is a regulatory issue. It can be solved. But what we need to know is the capacity nuclear has, and there I agree. Nuclear has extreme power to power moving forward for Africa. So the invention to that effect, I agree with, but it has its issues. The cost it did in Japan, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and all these things that happened. So the question is the control. I will give you an example. People could look up. There's a company by Bill Gates called Telepower. So it's trying an invention to that effect. Guys moving forward to that effect. So such companies coming on board to invest in Africa would be perfect and a good idea. Yes, me, I agree. There's potential for that. Wind has potential and solar have potential.
On a larger scale?
The issue we have is technology moving forward.
Okay.
Because one, the problem with wind and solar is a question of how do we store this energy? The question of storage is still a problem. And these issues have intermittent issues.
If we can't store
around the world.
it can be sustainable.
There will not be wind. For example, what will happen? Or the sun won't shine. What will happen? So I many of us in Africa, for example, because Africa has had an influx of solar solutions.
Yeah.
You find people in the village have a solar sort of
thing.
system. But you find it can't run nothing.
It can't light up the house.
It just light up and the light is just...
Can't charge the phone.
It can't charge the phone. Imagine such energy. So the question is more investment. They are good potentials, but we need more investment in such fields. But those investments, Africa, we don't have the money. We are fighting already to put our people on the grid, just our normal grid.
And
we
not
produce
all
enough
of them,
electricity.
just a half
Perfect.
of them.
But the question is the money to even propel and connect the other people is not yet there. So that's why I fight for the idea of funding. But this funding largely comes from the World Bank and the African Development Bank. So and the other partners. So if we fight on that angle, I believe we move forward well.
And you raised a good point when you said, the thing with the solar. And that's what I want you to add some clarity on. The renewable energy that we're getting into and the nuclear energy. Do we have a guarantee that it will indeed, let me say, power everything? Like, can it be the only single sole source to, like, let me say, power a home or a factory?
Or power cars.
Or do
you think in an utopian society, it's possible to totally get rid of fossil fuel use in Africa?
Let me give an example.
Or the world at large.
You guys will judge.
Okay.
We are seated in a room. This is steel. This is cement. This is concrete. I want you to go out there and make me research on another form of making cement. It's not there. We haven't found one. We are still making cement the way the fossil way it should be made. That's number one. Africa by nature is developing. You said we are going to have about 2.5 billion people. These people will need housing. What are we going to use? Grass thatched house? I don't think. Bamboo? I don't think.
Glass?
No.
Maybe.
So we are still moving on such a... So that is now... I'm telling you the realities. That's why I keep telling people who undermine this issue to really stop it, because they make it seem obvious. It's not. I'll give you an example. You're using a mic. What is this mic? Plastic. You can't get plastic without oil. That's it. Oil is a fossil fuel.
And now that raises another important point. So, before, like probably 5 years ago, oil and gas sector was really a good sector, a very highly growing or fast growing economy or sector. So everyone would want to venture. Let me say you're doing law, you want to do something related to oil and gas, or you want to, in whatever course you are, you want something in oil and gas so that you're able to like be part of that money making. Now, with the green activists moving and the green movement moving forward at a very fast rate, do you think, and also, won't it reduce the use we have for oil and gas? Won't it be only limited to plastics and cement, like you've said, and we shall not need it for maybe powering cars and whatever? And will it still be a fast-growing economy? Would you advise people to invest in oil and gas sector, or is it going to collapse incrementally?
Let me tell you the truth.
Maybe in the years to come, but now,
the whole truth. I have spoken and I've not quoted literature. But I will let people go and read. There's a gentleman called Václav Smil. He has written over 48 books on energy. I've read largely all of them. So they're good perspective. It's a true... don't just listen to people. Let me tell you, the whole world has been predicting peak oil, that there's going to be a point where we don't need oil. It has never happened. They have predicted and predicted. We still need oil. Let me give you the basics of all. For us to afford basic healthcare, for us to have a healthcare running, it can't exist without plastics.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That alone for me clears the air. Oil by nature will have...
Half the products used in a hospital are plastic.
Half of a car is plastic.
No, your petroleum jelly.
You get the point? The economy of the oil industry continues to flourish and forever will. until, that's why I keep telling people, me, for example, someone might say, I am against climate activists. I'm not. What I'm saying is we are rushing and we don't want to make the right research. When you tell us to move, what do you then tell us to leave? If you tell us to leave something, what is going to replace that? And when you talk about replacing, replace at a broad range.
Totally.
You get totally.
Yeah.
But you can't tell us, replace, but then you're the one flying in a jet. A jet, people are saying you're going to run a jet on when you plant sorghum and then get that sorghum plus corn and then run it and make a fuel. You guys, or that run a plane on batteries. The reason a plane by nature has been running is because kerosene is a light
fuel.
If you use the amount of energy that comes from that kerosene to propel that plane, if you got it and transferred it to make the energy needed for it to run it on a battery, that plane would fall. The batteries would be so heavy. You get the whole point?
Yeah.
So these that I'm trying to say are where our class that is now in the education system, the people studying all these things, to go out there and make research on.
Yeah. We can't go blindly.
We can't just go blindly.
We don't leave things behind without
we make
solutions.
research so that the solution we are talking about is achievable, but with realities.
Yeah.
Climate. There's an issue as we discuss on, as we conclude, that I'll give you on climate density. When you talk about you producing a new energy solution, does it really throw back to the energy this thing you're putting away has been providing? Because in the other sense, it's not.
Does it get better?
Does it get better? And does it still, because like we've said, as you transition, we need to know that the problem we have is an energy problem. That for people to get better, it has been energy that has made people better.
Yeah.
The world we see today would never be such a world
if there were no
fossil fuels.
Yeah.
So if you want it to continue and be better, because we want more healthcare, we want better transport, we want better life.
Yeah.
So how do we achieve it with the green solutions, but even solutions that bring such energy that works up back?
Yeah. It's amazing. So as we conclude, would you put the energy, as per Uganda, would you put the energy problem as a top problem?
You see, if you solve the energy problem, you've solved many problems.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should explain a bit.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
See this. We talked about farming and talked about the idea that the biggest percentage, for example, Ugandans are farmers.
Yes.
For farmers to proceed without fertilizer, it will be next to impossible.
Yes.
Fertilizer is an energy issue.
It's paramount, essential.
Paramount.
Yeah.
Number two is when you talk about irrigation, it is extremely central to the determinants of what you produce as a farmer. The rain we have is no longer reliable. It will come in January, it will come in June, and somehow it disappears when it's supposed to show up.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. So we'll need water. Where do you get this water? So we need to push, which I agree the government is trying to already start and do. Something around pushing this solution to the common person. But the issue is, again, investment to broadly move it forward.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. As we move forward, as we see the problem, yes, the problem is there. The world is getting hotter. It's going to get hotter. It has always been.
Yeah.
The issue is, how do we get out? But not kill a system. The system we have has been running on fossil fuels. But how do we slowly move forward smartly? Because we are educating people. Where is our education system in the energy sector? Where are these innovations that are being made all over the world?
Yeah.
Where is our place in such a world? Yes, we are saying the world that has evolved to make a life of fossil fuels should bring the money back. Yes, but where is Africa?
Yeah.
There's a gentleman called Thomas Friedman. He wrote a book titled Fast, Crowded, and Hot. So it's a mix-up of the two words. The three words. One must start after the other.
Yeah,
but largely it's talking about, one, the fact that it is crowded. We are many people, the population, the question of the population.
Yeah.
It's hot because of the climate change, and it is on the flat because we are now forever at the same level because of the internet. He raises an argument in that book. The people who will innovate and provide climate solutions and catch up with the energy revolution that does away with fossil fuels are people who will take up this world. They will be the real rich people of this world. I hope we can catch up on the little of that money.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to We Are Gonna Talk About It podcast. And you've provided great insights on the energy perspective. And what I've picked from this discussion or
read
from your
half your
knowledge,
books.
is that knowledge is the center of everything.
Yeah.
Let's not go into the whole green movement blindly, but let's go when we know what we are going to achieve.
Yeah.
So thank you for tuning into the We Are Gonna Talk About It podcast. To support these podcasts, you can support to our Patreon account, which links can be found in bio, or our PayPal link, which can also be found in our bios. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today, Fred.
Humbled.
And thank you so much. Also, if you want any further information as regards this episode, maybe you want to speak to Fred, maybe, you have some gigs for Fred or whatnot.
Ojo.
Oh.
Yeah, energy related and whatnot. Please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you.